So pleased to have at this table John Donahue, all the way in from Brooklyn, New York. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You're an artist, and you caught my eye because you're doing something called All the Restaurants in New York, which is what?
It's a visual compendium of all the city's eateries.
You're going to go everywhere in New York City. How many eateries are there? Do you know? Do you have a list?
There are 24,000.
Okay, and it takes you about 20 minutes to draw each one of them.
Right, and I've done the math, so it's theoretically possible for me to do them all in a year.
Are you kidding me?
If I don't spend any time in between them, if I don't eat or sleep.
All right, I think they're fabulous, and part of the proceeds are going to go to hunger relief charities.
That's correct.
So let's start looking at all these restaurants that you started to draw, and you have a website too where everybody can see all of these. They're black and white. You tell me it takes you 20 minutes to do these, and then you just put a little bit of color in them?
Right, I use one color just to, it's sort of like a set of rules for myself, like writing a sonnet or something, you know.
Do you remember each one of these restaurants that you're doing?
Do I remember drawing them?
No, do you remember anything about the outside of them? Have you eaten any of them?
Oh, I've eaten some of them, but it's actually kind of fascinating. I don't remember them. I could not replicate those drawings. Those drawings are specifically in that moment, of that moment, and only in that moment.
So you stand either close or a little bit further away?
Right, I try to get, it's a function of, you know, the available street space, like what's happening on the sidewalk. For that Cats one that was just there, we stood in the median on, whatever it is.
Did you clear traffic and have cops stop traffic for you?
No, we stood, there was in-between traffic, so there were trucks going by. But when I'm drawing, I concentrate completely on drawing, and I don't, I wouldn't even notice the trucks. I have two kids, and I couldn't draw when I was responsible for watching them when they're young, or even now, because I just won't be able to see what they're doing. I'll be seeing the drawing.
And how do you know where you're going to place the color, just in that one area? Or
No,
does it evolve?
I take some reference photos, and then I go back and put the color in later, and I try to do it for effect. And sometimes it becomes a little abstract. There's a great drawing I like of Del Posto, where the bricks become almost like abstractions. And sometimes it becomes frustrating if the restaurant just has a little bit of color or no color, and I can take liberties. I think I did the spotted pig, and I made the sky green because it just looked good that way.
Let's look at some more. I'm just fascinated by all of these that you have done. All right, here's one. You put a green door, I think.
Right. That actually had a green door, so that was pretty easy.
All right, that was easy to do. Next one. Is that black?
That's a gray. It had a gray facade.
Okay.
So, you know, it just becomes sort of tricky to figure out where the grays go. That's a great one. That is, you know, it's technically color, but it really works as a pen and ink and black and white drawing because it's.
And the stoplight. I love the stoplight.
Yeah, it's really. I think of my drawings in a way of like sort of like Google Earth pictures because they're like a snapshot of a moment. You know, if you go to look up something online, that's a particularly poignant one because that was the first one I realized it had closed after I'd drawn it.
Which is happening constantly, right? They're closing.
Well, yeah, it seems like an obvious point, but this was such an iconic place. The China Grill had been in the CBS Black Rock building for decades.
Not much color there.
There's a little in the sign. It's not really apparent now, but and that one that just closed. That was the famous vegan place in the East Village.
And you added the ladder. Love that.
Well, the ladder's there. Yeah, I like to give a sense of three-dimensionality because that's in a way sort of really what excites me about the drawings.
I love the brown in this one.
Oh, good, thanks, thanks.
Now you're exhibiting these somewhere.
Yeah, there's a show in Brooklyn right now at a bookstore in Park Slope called Powerhouse. It's on 8th Avenue in Park Slope. And there's 9 prints there on view through June 20th.
And you're doing 365 prints of each one of these.
Right. I make an original drawing, I color it, and then I sell prints. And I sell 365 prints, and I number each one, so each one becomes this sort of reminder of how our days are numbered. And it's, to me, the drawing is about being in the moment, and I do it just to be in the moment and become much, much more present. In a way, there's the spotted pig with the green sky. It doesn't really make any sense, but I like the way it looks.
But I love it. And this one you just did.
I did, right. This is the Shake Shack, and here, you know, there's a lot of buildings in the background in real life, but I thought, well, just put a blue background because it's a park, it's an amenity to a park, and I wanted to get the line in because the Shake Shack is sort of famous for its line.
Who taught you how to do this? When did you start? As a kid?
Well, I like all children, I drew, and then I didn't draw for a long time. From 2004 to 2007, I submitted cartoons to The New Yorker. I had 5 published in The New Yorker, but I'm pretty much self-taught. I went to the Art Students League and some other places, and then just drew on the subway, and I drew on my way to work and back. And then about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I started drawing around the house a lot more. I started drawing my dish rack every night.
Which I thought was very strange. You're drawing a dish rack in various different ways. Now, here is the dish rack.
Well, that's just one of them. That was from, I think that one's from April 21st.
Yep.
But I draw them, and I have some other ones in my notebook too if we want to see them. The nice thing about the dish rack is it seems to be the same, but it's always changing. It's an automatic still life.
Because you're a dad, right?
Well, and that's the way life is, and to me it's representative of the children. You see, like, you can't even see your children change in front of your eyes. You know, if you see someone else's kid, like 1 year apart, you see like, oh gee, they're so tall, but you can't even see your own children change, but they are. And the dish rack is changing constantly, but we don't really see it. And actually, I learned that the dish rack is very polarizing. So there's a whole school of thought where you can't have the dishes in the dish rack. You can't even have the dish rack on the counter. And
you know, that's interesting that you say that, because some kitchens will have the dish rack, everything's dried and put away. Mm-hmm. Some people will let it air dry. I can't even believe we're talking about this.
I'm an air dry person.
You know, that's interesting to me. So if you don't have a dishwasher, which we don't have at a little tiny cottage in Michigan, we let them air dry too.
Sure, we have a dishwasher, a dishwasher too. We just eat a lot, so there's a lot of dishes.
Well, you have 2 little kids. Now, while you were waiting for us to tape, I don't know if we can see this or not, but you drew in about 15 or 20 minutes the green room here at News Channel 8, which happens to be more red than anything, so you can't really see it. Sort of you can there. So you'll have to add some red there.
Right.
I guess,
yeah,
somewhere.
I wouldn't know. I'd maybe make the 8 red.
Yes, well, that would be good because it is red.
Right. Oh.
You were an editor at The New Yorker for 15 years, you said. Mm-hmm. What did you learn there?
Pretty much everything. But I edited the music listings in the front of the book, the goings on about town section. I learned how to use language. I learned a lot about how to use language. Yes.
And your cartooning, did you fine-tune it there?
The cartooning, when I got married, I started to draw a lot more.
Was that funny? Get married. So
you know, tragedy plus time is comedy. So,
yeah.
But anyway,
good one, John.
Yeah. So I fine-tuned it there in the sense that I had the opportunity to, you know, talk to the cartoon editor. Bob Mankoff was very encouraging. He was great. Then I ended up having some published and that sort of thing. And then I became a parent, and after that I sort of stopped drawing and cartooning, and I published a book called Man with a Pan. It's a collection of essays about being a father who cooks for the family. It has people like Mario Batali in it, Mark Bittman, Mark Kurlansky, Stephen King's in it. So I put my energy into that, and then it was only in the last few years that I returned to drawing. But really throughout the whole period for the last 20 years, I've been drawing sort of constantly. There was that time when my second child didn't sleep at all, and I couldn't stay awake on the subway to draw, but other than that, I drew, you know, I have hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of notebooks of drawings of people on the subway. And
what are you going to do with all of these? Because they're really good.
Well, thank you. It's nice to hear you say that, but it was interesting. I went through them a few months ago, and I thought, well, I had that exact question. What will I do with them? And you know what? A lot of them are really terrible. So
well,
the first ones,
the eye of the beholder,
the
right?
first ones, I mean, they've gotten better in recent years, but when I started out, I didn't draw at this level.
And we should point out that you don't trace anything. You just draw, and your hand is pretty steady.
Well, I like to just draw from life in ink because it's sort of like being doing life without a net. You know, it's like the way you learn how to keep things into proportion pretty quickly, and that's a good metaphor for being a parent, for life. But mostly it's sort of, for me, it's all about the process. And the process has this remarkable effect on me. It's very calming. It calms me. It gives me this great clarity, allows me to think straight. And the great thing about it is I get to, this process brings me a lot of joy. I draw pictures of restaurants, people like them, and it brings them joy. So it's sort of like concentric circles of evolving joy, basically.
How long really is it going to take you to do all the restaurants in New York City?
Well, that title is a little bit of a hyperbolic lark, but I do like having a subject that I can't exhaust, and so that I can draw forever, and that people are interested in. So that's sort of the more interested they are in the project, the more likely I'm able to continue it, because if they buy prints, it supports the effort.
A lot of folks are writing stories on what you're doing. Why has it caught people's eye, do you think?
I think we're at a moment in popular culture where food, a few years ago someone wrote in the Times that food's the new rock and roll. Food is the thing that people are interested in, talk about, and I've always been interested in eating and interested in cooking. I cook for my family, and I did the book on domestic cooking, but now I thought I'd move from the domestic sphere to the sort of more public sphere.
So I'm assuming that all of these restaurants it's going to be in a book, right?
Well, I'm working on a proposal right now. We'll see about that.
And then I said to you when we started to tape, it should be a coloring book with colored pencils, and you color it in.
Sure. I think I've been thinking about the drawings, and I think one of the reasons they're so appealing to people is they're so sparse, and it allows them to project their experience onto it, and even if they're not actually coloring it in physically, it just prompts in them a memory of a meal at a place or an anniversary, or there's a lot of sentimental interaction with the drawing, and I think it's because it's not completely filled out. There's space in there for the viewer to get involved, put in their own emotional experience into the drawing.
What is the reaction from the restaurants?
Oh, they love them. The restaurateurs.
Do you give them one, or do they buy one?
They've bought them. They've, passed them around on social media and things like that. Approached me about putting images on plates and things like that. So, yeah. So
there's a whole branding, marketing thing that could be coming from this.
Oh, sure. I think people like the drawing, the hand-drawn aspect of it, and. The response has been fantastic. Immediately I thought, well, you're doing New York City. Who's going to do Connecticut? So you would be the guy to do that at some point. Sure. Well, I guess once you've exhausted New York City, yes. which could be a while. It's next on the list, yeah. You ever spent much time in Connecticut? I used to come to Milford as a kid, and Fairfield. We would go to the shore for a month. I actually have no idea how my father did that, but that's what we did. So you do have fond memories here, too? Oh, sure. Well, John Donahue, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your awesome drawings with us, and best of luck to you. Thank you for having me. Spend all night kissing, and if was right here, then who else is missing? Got a little sidetracked to find myself wishing I could find the keys to the door, but it's also a metaphor. Things keep locked in the grocery store, but mine just to save time. Skip right ahead to the last ride.